Welcome to Real Estate Meets AI, the podcast where we explore how AI is reshaping real estate, construction, and the built environment one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Sandeep Ahuja, CEO and co-founder of Cove, a full-service architecture practice that runs on AI to drive smarter, faster, and more innovative outcomes. As an architect and building scientist, I've spent the past decade helping teams turn design challenges into data-driven wins. Now, I want to get into the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts of real estate, AI, and data that my industry peers and I have cultivated, applying behind-the-scenes knowledge to the trends we see in action today and deliver it directly to you. This podcast is about demystifying AI in real estate, pulling back the curtain to show you the real system, workflow, and decision-making that power our built environment. In each episode, I sit down with industry leaders, trailblazing developers, and tech innovators to unpack ideas, lessons, and real-world stories. You'll hear what's happening, what's working, what's evolving, and what it really takes to lead in an AI-driven world. This is the Real Estate Meets AI podcast. I am so excited to be joined today by Rukevbe Esi, the Chief Digital Officer at AvalonBay Communities. If you don't know AvalonBay, you probably live under a rock because they are one of the largest apartment developers and operators with over 90,000 apartment homes across the U.S. Rukus joined AvalonBay with a mission to reimagine the renter experience through technology. And in his role, he is responsible for driving digital transformation. When he's not doing his day job, he's leading the Internal Innovation Council, steering venture investments into new property tech, which actually is also his day job, because one's too few. Before jumping into real estate, Rukus was a tech leader at Capital One, where he helped cutting-edge products, including a mobile app with augmented reality car shopping features, which I thought was really cool. So he brings a wealth of experience at the intersection of tech and business. Rukus, I'm so excited to have you on this episode. Welcome.
Thank you, Sandeep. Happy to be here.
Amazing. So in this particular episode, we're going to start by picking your brain on where the AI stands in the real estate world. So zooming all the way back, big picture, on a scale of 1 to 5, where do you think the real estate industry is today when it comes to AI? 5 being it's super integrated into our workflows, and 1 being broad skepticism. Where do you think we are, and why do you see it that way?
I would probably rate it at a 3, 2.5, 3, maybe 3 on the top end. And there's plenty of opportunity. I would sort of break it up into two categories. There's sort of the operating side of the house, and then sort of corporate operations. On the operating side of the house, I think things are pretty advanced in terms of leveraging AI or the maturity of AI across the industry. So that's why I would rate it a 3.
So that's pulling up the other side.
It's pulling
You're
up
seeing
the other
less
side. Yeah.
so on
Yeah.
the
In terms of workflows,
side.
in terms of workflows and how embedded it is in operations and driving the business, I think there's still a lot of opportunities to get more mature.
So all right, there you go, real estate world. On a not great day, it's a 2.5, and when Rukus is feeling very generous, it's 3, which is totally fine. That's probably roughly where I'd see it too, although it really depends how you even consider that question. I am curious, in your current role, what is your view overall about the mindset in real estate? Is it a lot of wait and see, like what are others doing, or how are leaders feeling about it?
That's a great question. Quite frankly, I think it's a mix of all of those. I think you have a segment of folks who are waiting to see what others are doing or how much value is derived from AI. And then there's a sect that is, gung-ho, like, knee deep. Like if we don't do it, we're going to be behind, and we need to accelerate, how we leverage the technology, how we apply the technology to our operations. It's kind of interesting. You think back maybe 6 years before COVID, technology was not looked at as favorably in the multifamily sector. And if you look at the technologies a lot of firms leveraged, they were very dated, very cumbersome to utilize. But just prior to COVID, I think the prop tech industry kind of took off, and folks to really start to see the value of technology and the benefits it could provide to really driving efficiencies. Of course, COVID significantly sort of heightened the realization that there's a ton of value to be derived from it, knowing that customer behavior was leaning in a certain direction. So customer expectations basically required it. So I think the overall industry, if I sort of broad brush the industry, I think the industry is forward leaning and really believes that there is an opportunity here to continue to drive value for their businesses.
That's really cool. I like how you paint the trajectory all the way dating back to, well, COVID is really when we started the tech kind of like let's go do something because it's possible, and now we had to do it, so we've experienced what it can do. And as you even talk about the forward leaning, I know that from everything that I've heard from you, everything that I've seen online and articles, I mean, you all are really leading the charge when it also comes to, in my opinion anyway, with AI and real estate. I would be curious to hear about how Avalon Bay is actually using AI in practice, or what you guys are exploring, what you think is possible versus what's even already currently possible.
Yeah, I love the space. I love the industry. And, that was really one of the reasons why I transitioned into into this organization in this industry. Really, the opportunities are boundless in terms of applying technology to really improve the customer experience and drive value for the organization. We're doing some amazing things, some exciting things from my vantage point. I may be biased because, I am here. And driving a lot of it. But fundamentally, it starts with our North Star. And we defined our North Star a few years ago, really with a focus on the customer. So we decided to start to take, we're known as developers at our core, very strong development background, and we're talking real estate development. Technology, operations were not the areas that we were looked at for strong leadership. And in development, we've historically looked at things from a customer perspective in terms of how we design the floor plans, how we come up with our buildings and construct them. But when we think about the customer, and engaging with the customer, or how the customer engages with us, both the real estate and with us as a business, we had not prioritized their perspective historically. And essentially, we redefined our North Star with a customer back perspective, thinking about how do we improve the customer experience? And by doing that, how do we improve operations in general? And so it starts with self-serve. Like, the customer at their core wants to be able to solve their problems quickly and easily and intuitively. How do we do that? We need digital experiences that allow them to be able to self-serve. Now, the reality is every customer is not going to, if you think about every single journey that they go through in the renter's life cycle, there will be problems. And when they have problems, what happens next? They're going to need to call someone. They're going to need to either pick up the phone or send an email, which is what has happened historically. In our rubric, there needs to be a first layer of intervention. And that layer is where automation and AI comes in. And we believe that AI should be able to mitigate, resolve a significant percentage of those customer requests, incoming requests. And then the small percentage that cannot be resolved via AI and automation, then we have humans as the final backstop to resolve those issues. So that's how we define our North Stars, creating seamless, personalized experiences. And by doing that, you create digital experiences that allow us to basically understand what the journey of the customer is, what the problems are that they're experiencing. Using that data, we can basically improve and personalize the experience for them. And then we provide automated responses as much as is possible. And then we meet the customer where they are, right? If they need to physically meet somebody, then we provide an out for them to basically get out of the loop and engage with a human. So it solves two things. One, we give the customer a better experience. Two, we eliminate all the mundane routine tasks that our associates have to do. That are not really fun and don't really provide a ton of value for both the customer and us as a business. So that's how everything starts with our North Star. Now, we created a strategy that allowed us to sort of map out all the journeys that a customer has to go through. So if you think multifamily, it starts with the prospect. The prospect is desiring an apartment home to rent. So they're going to do a search. Once they search, they're going to schedule a tour. Once they schedule a tour, typically they're going to physically go to the property, tour the property, look around. And then once they're comfortable with the property, they will put an application in and then submit that application and then eventually move into the property. Now, if you go back to sort of pre-AI, we needed people involved in every single one of those interaction points or touch points. Not only that, I put quote, our digital experiences at the time were full of friction. So, you couldn't even fully complete, the application online. You couldn't physically fully understand sort of the breadth of attributes associated with, the specific unit that you were looking at online. So there are a lot of friction points in between, and all those friction points result in either emails or phone calls to our associates. So a lot of friction, a lot of interactions that are really unnecessary. What we desired was this is essentially a frustrating sort of part of the journey for the customer. And, our associates aren't entirely pleased.
And you probably needed more, right? You probably needed way more associates if they were solving all the
Exactly.
mundane stuff that you should be like, gosh, tech better do this.
Exactly. So what we desired was, how do we eliminate all those friction points, enable the customer to basically do what they need to do? So we introduced, sort of the first phase of the journey was introducing our leasing agent, automated leasing agent. And we use a third-party platform, which we actually partnered with them to sort of build out the initial version of the solution. But essentially what that does is it intercepts all customer requests associated with questions associated with the unit, questions associated with the community, questions associated with putting in an application, and essentially provides accurate responses to the customer and handles actually the scheduling of the tours, the follow-ups associated with touring a property. And as a result, we actually don't need physical associates on site to do tours. So we have what we refer to as self-guided tours.
Your prospects probably prefer that anyway, because who really wants someone watching over them when they're touring their future potentially home?
Exactly. And that is data that we collected from, sort of surveying our customers before we went knee deep in building out, this capability, which is a core part of, sort of the competency that we've developed as well. We've embraced what we refer to as a test and learn culture, particularly on the digital side, to ensure that we truly understand the problem that we're solving for, and it really is a problem. And then we organize and mobilize around, different ways to address it. So the leasing agent basically handles a lot of the interactions, and it does free up the prospect to basically tour freely at their own pace and based on their schedule, not based on constraints that we've defined, for associates that actually need to be on site. And then, the agent follows up. So once you're done with the tour, we're able to actually follow up to understand what they think about the property. Are they going to move forward with the lease?
So you probably eliminated at least like a leasing agent or so for every one of those 90,000 apartments that are housed in, gosh, I don't know the number, but however many communities and like complexes, right? Like, which is so amazing.
That is correct. And that is the core value that AI provides. So, and it's very intricately connected with our overall strategy. So big picture strategy is we enable customers to do what they want. And then when you think about the asset, like historically, we've had dedicated resources to the physical assets. So you have, whether it's, 3 to 5 employees at the asset to manage and operate the asset, it's its own book of business. We've transitioned to a model that we refer to as neighborhooding. And that is thinking of assets in clusters. So you have people managing a cluster of assets, and those people can rotate to support
Yeah, that's
the
the way to do
assets
it.
where the help is needed. And if we think about the value that we've created over, I would say since 2021, we've reduced the associate count by about 15% across our entire portfolio, which is a huge, benefit to in terms of cost, operating costs for the business.
No, I'm all about increasing profitability of a business. I mean, that's basically what we've done with architecture, right? Like the same project design that once probably needed a team of 8. We just have 2 extremely experienced people. It's all about that. No, it's not no people and all AI going loose, which is definitely the fear. But just
Yeah,
like you're describing, it's like, yes, you still have associates, but they're serving a cluster of
exactly.
apartments versus just one apartment complex. And probably the folks you have are significantly more experienced at solving the problems that come up so they can do it better.
Exactly, exactly. And then when you think big picture, when we think about growth and scale, we can scale significantly better with this model than, dedicated resources to, every single community that we have. The technology allows us to scale. The neighborhood model allows us to scale. So you have, wider span of control, across the portfolio.
I mean, not that I'm suggesting or thinking that you would want to do that, but it does give you the ability to be price competitive for your customers too, where you want to be. I would imagine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's both sort of what is referred to as what is it, double bottom line. You have
Yeah,
a benefit,
it's
potential
a
benefit to the
win-win.
customer. It's a win-win. We can drive value for the customer as well as our shareholders.
That's what I love most about AI and everything that I've seen across the board is that you're able to do what was once perceived impossible. That yes, all parties can win. You can win as a business and increase your profit margins, and the customers are also winning because they have to spend a lot less time waiting for someone to show up to fix their problem because they just fixed it themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now you will run into areas in the journey that, like, innately you would think AI would be a great sort of area to sort of deploy to drive value. And the customer behavior may not necessarily match sort of the intent. And I think over time, some of that will change. So you think maintenance is an example. You can have an AI agent that can actually talk a customer through some problems that they may be having within the unit that may not require a maintenance tech to actually come to the unit. One, it resolves the problem quicker for the customer. And then secondly, it reduces our cost of maintenance in terms of deploying resources. Now, some customers may not want. They may not want to go through a set of steps like,
And that's okay
yeah,
too.
and that's okay. Like I don't want to diagnose the problem. Just I'm paying rent. Come fix the
But that
problem
might
for me.
just be 10% of your customers, like
That is
90% are going to want to just figure it out. And even, gosh, even if it was 50% of your customers, that's still 50% that figured it out themselves. No matter where the percentages lie, it's still the logical answer.
absolutely. And it's all about options and optionality. From a customer perspective, if the customer is able to get their problem resolved quicker, then we have, avenues for that to happen. And hopefully
Yeah.
they can take advantage of it to get there.
The other theme you've touched on is you've described what I found to be a very, very amazing description of how y'all are really pushing the envelope on what's possible to elevate the customer experience, but also to elevate the profit margins of Avalon Bay, which I think both are amazing. But the theme that you threaded on was using the technology or AI or call it what have you like, but using it for the right things, but also being very clear of the things that it's not a good fit for. And I think sometimes that gets lost in discussion when it's like, oh yeah, AI can do everything. And obviously, as someone who runs the AI architecture firm, I can tell you, no, it can't do everything. It's very good at some things, and it's actually not very good at other things. I'd love to hear. So it sounds like, obviously maintenance, obviously need physical people. Would be curious to hear more about how you think about that thread. And also, maybe you're trying to push the envelope on where that is too. Because I mean, AI is evolving every day. There's new things that can happen that weren't able to be done, gosh, even a month ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating time that we're in. The pace of change in this space is just tremendous. So, in our rubric, we've sort of clustered things. And in terms of thinking about where AI can provide value or it can be leveraged. So the first is the customer directly in the customer interactions space, some of which I've spoken about already. The second big bucket is we refer to as decision support. And here I would refer to this as more traditional AI. So on the customer interaction side, there's a heavy Gen AI opportunity there, whereas it's conversational, leveraging LLMs to interact with a customer. On the decision support side, it's maybe heavy machine learning. There could be opportunities to leverage some LLMs there as well. And in that space, one example of how we've applied it and deployed it is pricing optimization. When we think about sort of our renewal pricing, we use, some elements of the traditional AI sort of mechanisms to look at different variables to deliver a renewal offer to our customer.
Has that increased renewal rates, the intelligence behind the renewal optimization?
Yeah, so you can look at our retention rates.
I mean, those are already pretty high. Like, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, you guys are already pretty high. I wonder if you've seen even minor differences with the pricing optimization related workflows that you've put in with AI.
Yeah, we've ran tests before we actually deployed our renewal, models into operation, and we did this probably in 2021 timeframe, and we've seen significant benefits. I mean, I can't remember the numbers right now, the percentages,
Sure,
but
because it
what we've
was like
seen,
4
yeah,
years ago.
we saw significant benefits, improvements in our
Yeah.
tests, and then we deployed it to production. So we've seen significant benefits in that realm, and I think when I think about where we're headed, there's more opportunity with the amount of data that we're collecting across our digital properties. All those data sets allow us to even personalize and refine the model even further to give us better insights.
That's really, really awesome. I am still curious. So, the thing that you talk about, you've now mentioned it 2 or 3 different times. In fact, with every new technology that you've described, which you guys are definitely on the cutting edge of what's possible, and it's clear based on the business that Avalon Bay is, which is awesome and really pushing the envelope. You talk about pilots. You talk about, yeah, we ran a test, we ran a pilot, yes, we ran a study. Help me and others, potentially even other leaders who are navigating change, because change can be a scary thing at large corporations. How are you able to get the internal buy-in, or how are you able to get people on board to run the test, and then also when the results of the tests are pretty convincing, convince or get on board or partner with the rest of the organization to move in that direction, because that in itself can be a fun challenge, even if the answer is super clear.
That's a great question, and I would say I'm incredibly fortunate to be working at an organization like Avalon Bay. I mean, we have phenomenal leaders that are very forward leaning when it comes to deploying tests or aligning on tests. We first and foremost align on the problem we're trying to solve, right? So if we're all aligned that there's an opportunity here, what is that opportunity? And then we frame how we go around, sort of solving it. If you think about our business, we're vertically integrated, which is, like another huge blessing, because we develop, we construct, and we operate. Right. So we've got all three, facets. And then, from a technology perspective, we've got a strategy that has developed a capability internally to drive these implementations and these tests. So once we're aligned on the problem, it requires significant collaboration across the business, and we have all the players, all the stakeholders associated with it, and then we determine the best location to actually test it. So that boils down to what region can we do this, which communities make sense, and we have the operators in the room. We have the technologists in the room with the hypothesis that we've defined and how we believe success can be determined. And we align as a group that this actually can be achieved. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to run the test, right? So if we're not aligned on what the
It'll be
hypothesis
moot.
is, what they say, yeah, and then there's going to be no rationale to actually scale it and move it to production or go portfolio wide. It's really important that we're able to align on what success looks like and where we can test to actually get that insight. And we need
Yep.
all the players in the room to basically do that. But thankfully, we're an organization with leaders that are very forward leaning.
That's
Once they
amazing.
understand what we're trying to do, it becomes easy to sort of corral the troops and get after it.
And I can hear it in your voice. I can hear the passion, like almost like, oh, you have no idea. I work with the best people. I can feel it in the way that you describe it. It sounds like short of, I don't know, go work at Avalon Bay. That seems to be the advice.
Anybody who's interested, give me a call. But it's a phenomenal, I mean, this is a forward-leaning organization, and I can only imagine what it would be like, sort of pushing forward on a lot of the treads that we're pushing on, tracks that we're pushing on, if the organization were not as forward-leaning as it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love that. All right, let's do a fun lightning round. It's not about what you do at all. It's not about AI. It's not about technology. It's just simple things. We can get to know you a little bit better. I've been thinking about this a while. Obviously, your nickname is Rukus. How'd you get that nickname? I have to know.
So I've actually had the name since I was probably 3 years old, and it was actually a neighbor who gave that name to me. I won't share the details around around that, but I think it had something to do with my joy and energy around playing, and like a song was made up around that, and it just stuck. And my family, calls me that, and it's persisted.
Love it. I had no idea that you've had it since you were that young.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the one technology gadget or app that you can't live without? What's your daily digital obsession?
The Whoop band is my favorite gadget. I'm big on activity, health, and tracking my sleep patterns. And I actually picked this up maybe about a year and a half ago after sort of thinking through different gadgets. But the Whoop is phenomenal. And I wake up every morning. It's the first thing that I look at, to understand what my recovery is for the day. It's almost weird. It's very psychological, I think. When I look at the data and it's not positive, all of a sudden I don't feel great. Even though
data has the ability to do that.
Yeah, and the reverse. And that is my primary gadget.
And the last question: if you weren't in real estate, what would you be doing today?
If I was not in real estate, now I could answer. I could take that multiple different ways. I'm going to assume if I were not in technology, as opposed to not in real estate.
Yes, don't
right?
say technologist, because we all know that. That's the easy one.
Yeah.
If you were not into technology, if you were not into real estate.
If I was not into real estate, I think there are two things that like I'm incredibly passionate about. One is sort of the stock market and finance. The second is sports. And I am like an avid, crazy competitive, sports addict. So I play a lot of tennis and I play a lot of golf, and those three things would probably take up my primary day. Understanding, what's going on in the markets, and then I take time off and go play golf, and then I'd play tennis, and I travel around the world.
Amazing. And I know I said it was the last question, but I can't help myself. What was your best round of golf?
My best round was 81.
Well, that's really good. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm working on improving that, even though I've gotten to the stage where I'm not as driven to drive down my handicap as much as I'm driven to ensure that my handicap reflects my game truly, such that when I am in competitions, I do get the benefits that I am deserved.
I am blown away. So all I've walked away with this conversation is you are amazing at everything that you do, because everything that you have touched, including golf, you are amazing at. So thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for sharing your insights with us. This was so amazing. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Thanks for listening to the Real Estate Meets AI podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the Real Estate Meets AI podcast on your favorite streaming platform, and follow us on social media at cove.inc. Until next time, I'm Sandeep Ahuja.